Once upon a time, there was un castle old que was in the middle of un forest dark y terrifying, y en el castle lived un fairy old. This fairy could change a any shape ella wanted. All day long ella flew around as an owl, or crawled around el country like un cat, but at night ella always turned back in una old woman. When any man young approached her castle, like la distancia que you can walk in un minute, he could not move at all until ella should come and let him go free. She would only do this if él promised never to return. But when any girl pretty came so near, el fairy turned her into un bird and put her in una cage, and hung la cage in un room en el castle. There were 700 de these cages hanging in el castle, y all de ellas had beautiful birds inside. There was once una girl whose name era Jorinda. Ella era prettier que all las pretty girls anyone had ever seen before, y un boy que took care of sheep, whose name era Jorindel, loved la very much, y ellos were going to get married soon. Un day, ellos fueron to walk en el forest, so ellos could be alone together, y Jorindel said, "We must be careful not to go too close to the Hada castle." Era una beautiful evening. La last light del sun going down shone bright through the long tree trunks onto las green plants below, y las doves sang from las tall birch trees. Jorinda sat down to look at el sun. Jorindel sat next to ella. Both de ellos felt sad, but ellos did not know why. It felt like ellos fueran a ser separated from each other forever. Ellos had walked un long way, y when ellos looked to see qué way ellos should go home, ellos could not figure out qué path to take. El sun was going down fast, y already half de él had gone behind la hill. Jorindel suddenly looked behind him and saw through las bushes que ellos had, without knowing it, sat down right next to las old walls of the castle. Then él pulled back in fear, turned white and shook. Jorinda was just singing. La dove sang from la tree branch, "Oh no, oh no." Él cried for his love who was taken away, "Oh no." When her song stopped all at once, Jorindel turned to see why, and saw his Jorinda had been changed in un nightingale, so that her song ended with un sad bird cry. Un owl with bright burning eyes flew around the yew tree, and 3 times it screamed, "To-hoo, to-hoo, to-hoo." Jorindel could not move at all. Él stood still like una rock, and él could not cry or talk or move his hands or feet. Now el sun went all the way down, la dark night came, el owl flew into un bush, and right after that la old witch came out looking white and thin, with big staring eyes, and una nose and chin que almost touched each other. Ella said something quiet to herself, grabbed la nightingale, and walked away holding it in her hand. Poor Jorindel saw que el nightingale was gone, but ¿qué could él do? Él could not talk, and él could not move del place where él was standing. At last la witch came back and sang in una rough, scratchy voice. "Until la prisoner is trapped, and her fate is set, stay there, oh stay there. When la magic is around ella, and el spell has tied her up, go fuera, go fuera." All at once Jorindel found que él could move again. Then él got down de his knees in front of la witch and begged a ella to give him back his dear Jorinda, but ella laughed at him and said él would never see a ella again. Then ella walked away. Él begged, él cried, él felt so sad, but nothing worked. "Oh no," él said, "¿qué will happen a mí?" Él could not go back a his own home, so él fue to una village él had never seen before and got un job taking care of sheep. Many times él walked around and around as close del terrible castle as él dared to go, but nothing worked. Él could not hear or see anything de Jorinda. At last, él had un dream una night que él found una beautiful purple flower, and in the middle of ella was una precious pearl. Él dreamed que él picked la flower and went with ella in his hand into el castle, and everything él touched with ella was freed del magic spell, and there él found his Jorinda again. In la morning, when él woke up, él began to look over hills and valleys for this pretty flower. For 8 long days él looked for la, but could not find la. But in the 9th day, early in the morning, él found la beautiful purple flower. In the middle of ella was una large drop of water as big as una precious pearl. Then él picked la flower and started traveling day and night until él came back to el castle.
Él walked closer the 100 steps de él, and this time él did not get stuck like before. Él found que él could walk right up to la door. Jorindel was very happy to see this. Then él touched la door with la flower, and ella opened right up. So él went in through el yard and listened when él heard so many birds singing. At last, él came a la room where el fairy sat, with 700 birds singing and 700 cages. When ella saw Jorindel, ella was very angry and screamed with rage, but ella could not come closer the 2 big steps de él, because la flower él held in his hand kept lo safe. Él looked around a los birds, but oh no, there were many, many nightingales, so how could él figure out which uno era his Jorinda? While él was thinking about qué to do, él saw la fairy had taken down una de las cages and was hurrying away through la door as fast as ella could. Él ran or flew after ella, touched la cage with la flower, and Jorinda stood in front of él and threw her arms around his neck, looking as beautiful as ever, as beautiful as when ellos walked together in los woods. Then él touched all los other birds with la flower, so ellos all turned back in their old shapes again. Él took Jorinda home, where ellos got married and lived happily together for many years. So did many other young men whose girlfriends had been forced to sing as birds in las old fairies' cages by themselves much longer de lo que ellas wanted to.